Hey, welcome into the podcast. I'm Jay, and that's Keith.
Hey, everybody.
PartsCounterGuru.com. Welcome in.
See, I almost did
How
it
you doing
again.
today?
So
you did? You're all okay. Get this. Go ahead and get this off your chest, though. What's our web address?
PartsCounterGuru.com. I can't do it.
Yeah, you can. You're good.
So
hey, welcome in, everybody. Here we go.
My string of stepping on something you say is intact.
It's okay. It's good. It's all right. I'll see if I can't step on you here momentarily. We'll just get through this.
What's going on, Jay?
Not much. What are we going to talk about today? We got a lot of things to talk about.
That awesome hat.
Oh yeah. Hey, by the way, thanks for bringing that up. Local watering hole here, Union Tavern, one of my favorite hangouts. They have about 20 nice tap handles over there or more. Good food, good guys over there. Give a shout out to Joe and Kendra and the gang over there for doing such a great job for me every day when I get done with this and roll on over to the watering hole and have a nice cold draft beer.
Hey.
So thanks for the hat.
Let's put a bounty out. I want some pictures of Jay after 3 or 4 of these cold drafts, guys. Post it on our hit us up at partscounterguru.com.
Yeah.
There's an
yes, do that, please.
I want some dirt.
Well, one thing we need to bring up too, that this is actually a good host environment for I did a story back when we first started doing this on our website. It's about the Oyster Run, which is one of the largest bike rallies in the Pacific Northwest. These guys are right in the center of the activities that go on down there, and I will be doing hopefully this year, maybe a live spot from there, or at least some video and hopefully talking to some of the participants this year. But if you ever get into the Old Town, make sure you give these guys a good look up. They really know how to do it right. So anyway, there's your plug, and there's the hat. I love the hat.
So
pretty awesome.
Now, do they sell those hats at the tavern?
They do sell these hats, among other things. Some beanies, and they've got some hoodies and all kinds of neat stuff. They have a great food menu. They kind of specialize in a few. They do have a website, man. It's just Union. Hey, you know what I'm going to do?
Let's put it on.
All you listeners, we're going to put a link on our website for them.
There you go.
And you can go on and check out their menu, and they just have such a great staff. They're a lot of fun to hang out with. So, just anyway. So, what else we got to talk about, man? There's something bugging. I can see it.
Oh, there's lots of stuff bugging me.
Sure.
I got a follow up. Let me see if I can pull this up. So we talked on a couple previous podcasts about the fixed FIXD dongle. It's a car diagnostic tool, OBD reader, code reader.
Yep.
So I actually opened a ticket with these guys earlier this week. I just wanted to see how good their support was, and I had a couple service engine lights coming on. So let's see here. One of the guys from Fixed, his name's Adam, wrote back to me and said the code that we're picking up is a pending code. Now, this was related to like a safety restraint, something in the airbag system or the seat sensor, which has like a weight detection before it'll power the airbag. Something in that chain was throwing an error, but there was no light on my dash. Okay, so I was just trying to figure out if it was a legit error or not. And he said, hey, the code that we're picking up is a pending code, which is a predicted issue. Predicted issues can be intermittent codes that appear and disappear.
That's a one-trip.
One trip.
Remember I said that earlier on? It's a one-trip code. That's right. Yep. And what it's doing is it's basically taking snapshots, and what has to happen is that has to reoccur again before it trips twice. Then that check engine light comes on.
Okay. They haven't occurred often enough to engage the check engine light, which I think is what's going on in my case. That light's not on. However, we show you the data as we see it in order to alert you to any potential upcoming issues. It's not an issue that needs to be fixed, but you should keep an eye out.
Right. So
then I got into, I actually wrote him back and thanked him and said, so how do I clear this off your app? Because if it's a one trip, Jay, as you said, then how do I, so it's not being thrown on my vehicle. How do I clear the code on the app? Does that make sense?
Yep. And his response was,
he said we can't clear the code. It can only clear the vehicle's check engine light.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's some limitations there, and remember early on we were talking about some of this OBD2 stuff about the fact that there are certain proprietary things within these OBD systems.
Right.
So I'm not real sure at this point whether it's a situation where you have to go to someone with the right equipment to get that code cleared. In other words, it's not just going to be just an average dongle or an average scanner. There's a lot of products out there in the market, scanners, but they have their limitations, and this is one of them.
But
okay,
you see the dilemma, right? So the dilemma is don't yet have an issue,
right?
But it's always going to show up as an issue on that app,
right? Until the codes are cleared, until that's cleared, or if it's resolved. Which again, remember early on too, Keith, we said never clear your codes until the issue is resolved.
Right.
So in my opinion, you're going to want to keep that history.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You know? So, but bottom line though, this was kind of a test. I just kind of wanted to see how these guys were and responded. He got back to me pretty quickly. It was within 24 hours, and we had 2 or 3 exchanges, and they were prompt responses from the fixed guys, and seems like they know what they're talking about. So it still carries our seal of approval. And by the way, there's a link on our website if you want to buy one of these. It's mentioned on the podcast is the link on our website.
That is correct.
So Jay, you want to do some news?
Let's do some news, man. Hey, I got one to start with.
All right. Well.
And now, welcome into Parts Counter Guru Nightly News.
There you go. You take it away, Jay.
Right on. Well, John Haynes passed away. Did you hear about that?
I did when you told me about it right before we started recording. Does that count? Yeah, it does. You're now in the know. But everybody knows the Haynes manuals. Anybody who has been a DIYer. He basically opened the door for people to become a, at-home mechanic, or technician to fix your own vehicle and tinker with. And some of those are greatly detailed. Give the guy, I think he definitely opened the door for many other media outlets to put this type of information out there. But in my opinion, he was the old standby. Yeah. So it started as a kind of a telephone book almost. Thick, and it was for your specific vehicle. Like you could buy them at the auto parts store.
That's right.
And it would be usually for that model year. Might cover 2 or 3 sometimes if there weren't a lot of changes.
Right.
And I think in later years they started doing a digital version.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to. Yeah. I mean, it's to be able to reach everybody on all their devices, and I mean, there's so many ways to get this information now, but what was real nice about what Haynes did was, he took actual OEM information that was not plagiarized. This was factual information. He gave OEM part numbers, to the parts that needed to be replaced. He would even give OEM special tools that you could purchase. So it's pretty thorough. I don't have one on any of the vehicles that I own now. But I do have one on my 82 Harley Davidson Sportster, old Ironhead 1000cc bike. That's basically a dinosaur these days. But I whip that book out every 100 miles.
Well, it's a Harley, yeah. Sometimes
That's right.
less than 100 miles.
Yeah, the leaking of the oil out of that thing was the least of my worries. It was the ability to be able to keep bolts in place, man. So, but anyway, sad to hear he passed away, but he certainly contributed to our industry.
Oh, for sure.
And so condolences to his family. And so, what do you got? What's news to you?
Well, I got something a little lighter.
Okay.
Actually, I got a lot of somethings a little lighter. Now, this is a couple years old. This isn't necessarily recent, but I stumbled on this last week and I got a good laugh.
Still relevant. Still relevant.
Well, for a couple reasons, but so found this article, research group out of Vanderbilt University, so kind of in my backyard, and they released this study that said the only faces men recognize better than women are Transformers. Have you heard about this? Do you know about this?
I haven't, no, but I can certainly get it. Yes.
So men tend to be better than women at this highly useful and totally not absurd skill, according to a study from Vanderbilt, published in Vision Research. Tested a people's ability to recognize the faces of familiar childhood toys. And so
interesting.
People of my generation, your generation, apparently were quicker to recognize Transformer faces than women.
Go figure.
Yeah. So,
how much money did this study cost is what I want to know, man.
That's a good question.
How much money are they spending on this stuff?
Well, look,
there's your news.
I mean, you got Vanderbilt University. You got to find a reason to keep them in school longer. So I guess you come up with stuff like this.
I guess, man. I guess. Which, by the way, speaking of Vanderbilt, they actually, a product of Vanderbilt were two young ladies who were students there that actually went on to open up a nice brewery there in Nashville, Tennessee. And you may be familiar with it, Keith, but it's called Jackalope. If you ever get into Nashville, folks, go to Jackalope. It's a real good story, and they brew a fine beer. So
I do know of them, and I am a fan of the product as well.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right, so how about this one? Sorry, guys, everybody listen. I'm having a little bit of a feedback issue today. We made some changes on our platform. Technology's biting me a little bit. So if you're watching the
always
podcast,
improving, and
you see me keep pulling this can off my ear, that's why. If you are not watching the podcast and you are listening to the podcast, know that there is a video version of the podcast available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and we encourage you to, if you go to YouTube, there's also all kinds of other videos of ours on our channel, so check that out.
Yeah. Talk about numerous topics, just good things.
All right, so a guy, I can't let a week go by without talking about Tesla. They're always in the news, and it's hard to just pick one thing every week, but some guy crashed a Tesla this week and blamed the autopilot. Did you hear about this one?
I snippets of it, but I don't have the full story on it though.
So I do. Well, I have as much as anyone, I guess. And here's what I understand. So there was kind of a Y in the road where it was like an off-ramp kind of scenario. And instead of choosing one of the legs of the Y, in other words, taking the off-ramp or staying straight, he just went right between them and into the grassy area there, hit some traffic light poles or something like that.
He did this.
He did it.
He's blaming it on.
He said it was the autopilot, and sort of publicly somehow made that statement. And Tesla caught wind of it. All right, and let's see, Middlesex County Model X crashed off the road on Route 1 North Brunswick. It was in New Jersey. News outlet NewJersey.com. The police report said the vehicle could have gone straight or taken the exit, but instead split the difference and went down the middle, taking the vehicle off the roadway and striking several objects at the roadside. All right. So then people have gone on Google Street View and shown pictures of the actual area, which is how I kind of knew.
Right.
The driver said he tried to regain control from the autopilot, but couldn't.
Oh.
Okay.
Smelling fishy to me, Chief.
So a Tesla spokesperson responded with the following statement.
I can't wait. Drum roll.
Safety is... Sorry.
Do we have a drum roll?
Do you have a drum roll? I don't have anything teed up.
Oh, okay. Darn.
Safety is his top priority at Tesla, and we engineer and build our cars with this in mind. We also asked our customers to exercise safe behavior when using our vehicles, including following the car's instructions for remaining alert and present when using autopilot, and be prepared, blah, 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 blah. Don't stick an orange in the steering wheel and all that other nonsense.
Yeah. We've talked about that.
A driver can easily override autopilot by lightly touching the steering wheel or brakes. Moreover, the brakes have an independent bypass circuit that cuts power to the motor no matter what the autopilot computer requests. And the steering wheel has enough leverage for a person to overpower the electric steering assist at all times. Meaning if you just put a little elbow grease into it, right? So they stopped short of calling this guy a liar, but they're basically saying that this isn't possible the way you described it.
Right. So,
and here are the reasons why.
Yeah. He was sleeping is what he was doing.
He was doing something.
Yeah.
And doesn't want his insurance company to know, so he blamed Tesla.
You know, people, you weave these webs of lies, and this is what happens. So get ready for your public display of being an idiot. Sorry, is that right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just, we've talked so much about data loggers and through the OBD port and insurance companies, and these Teslas have I think most of them have a dash cam now, and they're certainly logging all this data. The truth's going to come out, dude. I mean, one way or the other, it's going to come out.
Yeah, no way otherwise. I mean, and the reason why, let's think about this, okay? Don't go start picking on a car company, man, unless you're absolutely 100% sure that that's what occurred. And here's why I say that. Is because it is their obligation to make sure their product is safe, or else they couldn't be selling these things. And you go to war. You're going to go to war, buddy.
Well, and they told you in their statement, we take this seriously.
Absolutely,
that means
they do.
You got our attention. We're going to throw our full resources at this, and the truth's going to come out.
Tesla listens to their customers, by the way.
I mean, there's people that have tweeted Musk and suggested things, and he has implemented those changes from those tweet suggestions into current software.
Yep, sure has. So, being like the new dash cam integration with existing software in the car, to where it can now record the side view mirrors and rear camera. Everything is
collision avoidance system. Yep.
Which is really neat. And then the one thing that I liked that I read about this morning, which I think hits close to home for you, is they Elon Musk listened to his users, and now there is a mode in which you can put the car in to keep your dogs, your animals, your pets cool while you're away. It will actually, you can set it, and on the screen, that way when you're walking by, you don't think that these poor animals are sitting there dying of a heat stroke. It actually tells you what the temperature is inside the vehicle, and you can post up a message saying, they're okay. So
pet mode, yeah.
Pet mode.
Now, you know what's going to happen, and so I read a high-level overview. I glanced through this article. I didn't read it in full detail. This may or may not be in the article, but I know where this is going to go. So do they lock the controls when it's in pet mode, meaning, the dog can't push a button and roll the window down or adjust climate or knock the car into gear, or do they, because
I'm sure they
if you
thought
got
of that.
somebody blaming autopilot for what just happened and we talked about, next thing you know, some pet owner is going to be complaining that their dog drove their Tesla out of the parking lot.
Yeah, Rex is riding down to the the boat launch right now. So look out, all APB, man, right? APB's out on a dog named Rex going to the boat ramp.
So speaking of data logging and Big Brother and insurance companies tracking you and Google Maps and Street View, I had kind of a realization last week. I had been getting these notifications on my cell phone from Google going, hey, what did you think about such and such place? And I'm looking at and I'm going, I've never been to this place. Why are you asking me what I thought?
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, they're watching.
So the first couple times it happened, I just wrote it off and went, your code's jacked up. You're not tracking me or you're correctly. And I use Google Maps on my phone. So I know they're tracking me and they use that data for a lot of things. But I had consented to that for the purpose of using Google Maps, right?
Right.
Well, I kept getting these weird, requests to rate places that I'd never been to. And it started to occur to me one day, I usually will go to places like in a strip mall and not park right in front of the place that I go into. Just, I don't know, I'd like to walk a little bit or whatever, right? So they've got an algorithm running that basically detects when my vehicle slows to a park.
Mm-hmm.
And then that triggers their location.
Right.
Instead of following, because I take the phone in with me to, whatever store I'm going in. So instead of kind of continuing to track me to there, it thinks that because I parked out in front of the store 3 spaces down or whatever, that's where I'm going.
Right. Yeah.
So so their AI is a little bit flawed on that for guys like me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a ton of apps out there that if you, for example, some safety apps like people use for their kids to keep track on them. Same thing. And
yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, you're tower bouncing all the time, right? So it can.
Yeah.
It can,
so
it can put
where
you
you're going
in
with that is
it can put you in an erroneous location and you've never been there.
They're using a lot of different technology to triangulate your location.
Right.
They can certainly do it by cell phone towers. Now, usually these phones, the modern phones, are connected to more than one tower at a time. They will use Wi-Fi data. So based on sort of known Wi-Fi, like there's wireless over there and over there and over there, they can get location data through them. And then there's the GPS chipset on your phone.
Right.
And we have now gone completely off the nerd into the diving board. But yeah, so all those things combined are helping them get a more accurate location on you down to a couple feet.
Right. And let's keep this in mind too. Let's get really nerdy with this. By by disabling your location services on your phone, they're still tracking you.
Yeah.
You got to figure that.
That hit the news today.
Yeah. You got to be careful with that.
People that on Android anyway had specifically declined to allow some apps to track them, and then the news, an independent. Here we go with these independent studies and surveys again, but an independent firm basically caught some of these apps still continuing to track.
Yes.
So it's not good.
That is correct.
Okay, so I've got one I'm just itching to talk about here.
Let's do it. News of the day.
And one of them, I'm all right, let's talk about Chrysler for a minute, because there's actually a couple cherries I can pick out of this one.
Are they still around? I thought they were. What's that Italian company what was their name again?
You talking about Fiat?
Yeah, those guys. I thought that's where Chrysler went. That's what I was looking for.
Well, that was the
punchline. Yeah, that was a
yeah. They're still
you got
around
a beer
now.
Can, you got a beer can thing in that thing? Beer can opening sound?
No, I can crush one on my head and record it for next time if you want.
Okay.
Let me make an equipment adjustment here. If you're not watching, you'll have to use your imagination. It's been creeping down on me, and I'm
is that what? I thought you were just, I don't know, you were listing a little, man.
Trying to hide.
You were listing.
Yeah. Oh, my back. My mic's falling, for those of you that can't see. So Chrysler's had some challenges. Let's put it that way over the past few years. They have intentionally separated the Ram line from the rest of Chrysler, meaning like they try to not advertise them together. They don't really put any Chrysler badging on the Ram stuff. They've made a concerted effort to present that as its own product, right? I'm talking about Ram, the trucks.
Yeah, and if I may here, it's funny you bring that up, because being in the world of cataloging for the aftermarket, we've talked about the mapping standards that are out there, the ACES mapping standard for that. All of a sudden, we knew that they were being made, these Dodge trucks, that were out there, but there was no mapping. You couldn't map to them. Turns out they had flipped the switch and called them Ram, so they did separate. I think it was around 2010 or 2011 they started rebranding that as Ram trucks. Again.
Yeah, and this isn't anything new to our listeners. I mean, we've discussed this before, but truck sales are up. The big three are kind of hedging their bet on SUVs, bigger vehicles, pickups, moving away from sedans. I mean, this is an old topic for us. The Ram line was a profitable line for Chrysler, for Dodge, and so that's sort of why they did it and went in that direction with it. It's one of their more valuable products.
Well, and it's actually turns out that that's probably about the only reliable product.
Well, we're getting to that. So they've come out with a pretty cool innovation. I'm a fan of innovation. Have you heard about the I think they call it a folding tailgate?
Yes.
On the Ram 1500.
I have. I've actually.
So it not just lowers, right? It also, what would you say, kind of like a 60-40 French door where it opens
pretty
out?
Pretty much, yeah. And Chevrolet has their own version where it folds out and becomes a step, and they're really getting elaborate with the tailgates. Yeah,
it's cool.
It is.
Yeah, as long as it's structurally still able to do everything a tailgate needs to do, by all means. Yeah, I looked at it and I thought, do we really need this? And then I went, yeah, it's a good thing.
I think it is a good thing because it gives you a little bit more versatility. A little bit more ability to access, obviously. But that's, what was it? Nissan for the Frontier. Remember the extender, the bed extender they came out with? It's like a cage.
Yeah, I had it.
I mean, they were like they started
and
that.
Everybody copied that. It was great.
I mean,
because the bed was smaller. It was a small pickup, and so if you were hauling lumber or whatever, sometimes not everything fit in that with the tailgate up. And so they figured out a way to lower the tailgate and
that's right.
Still keep your cargo in there and keep it from flying out.
So what's for me, what I take from it, is the research had been done many years ago, as they always have. When you start making a change or a trend change, and we're at that point now where everybody knows this now. There's been so many. Was it like I forget how many thousands? 800,000 people that were laid off from GM from shutting all these plants down.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and
they said it was like 7%,
and so they're
7 or 8%.
Yeah, so they're they've laid all these people off, but what they're trying to do is they're taking the focus off of sedans as that's We've talked about it.
Yep.
And but what they've done though is they look at all of that information, and if we're going to do this, we better make some strides in the product we're going to be putting out there. And this is just the beginning.
Yep.
So I can't wait to see what happens, within like the next 2 years to what we now call a pickup truck now or whatever.
Well, and they're all trying to figure this out. And it's tricky with pickups because that is such a moneymaker for them. It's a profitable vehicle. That you got to be careful how much you mess with it, because if you do something that affects your bottom line, your sales, and people stop buying them, you're in trouble. Right. I mean, they've got so much riding on that right now. And so they're not as agile as some of these smaller startup companies can be, because they've got a lot less to lose, right? And so they're willing to put pet mode in a in a vehicle to see what happens. So still on the topic of Chrysler, Dodge, anybody might want to buy a lightly used, well cared for 2018 Dodge Demon. It's a Challenger, 2-door.
I don't know of anyone. I know they're fast.
It's in great shape. Yeah. Those things are making it's over 700 horsepower.
It's ridiculous.
I
saw this.
It's insane.
I saw this video at a drag strip recently. I think it was somewhere up in Canada, but it was a stock Hellcat, man, that was just blowing the doors off of anything that was coming to the line. Pretty incredible.
Yeah. So there's just one problem with this one that I was talking about.
What's up with it?
It needs a new transmission.
Why? Apparently they have issues out of their transmissions.
Yeah. So a video hit today from a drag strip. Interesting that you mentioned that. And there were two of these Demon, Hellcat Demons, whatever insane amount of horsepower these things are making, and not racing each other, but at the same track, I think, same drag strip, same day, I think even. One was modified, one was factory, one was stock, and they both threw their rear axle and dropped their transmission. And you can just see the guy filmed it in slow motion, and there's just parts dropping out from the bottom. The car kicks up a little bit. And so this is an interesting predicament for Dodge. And here you want to hear, this is my prediction. You want me to?
Let's have it.
I'm going to tell you where I think this is going to go. And we'll come back to this podcast in a year or two and see if I'm right.
Sounds good.
So when it hit the newswire, Dodge said, we're taking a look at this. We're looking into it. They got a hold of the videos and they're going to research it. Okay. These cars are making, as we've already established, just a crazy amount of horsepower. Right? I mean, insane, right? So if you don't take that into consideration when you build that automobile, meaning if you've got the Challenger platform and you've got 4 or 5 different versions of that vehicle, and there's 2 or 3 different engines, and I don't know, I'm just guessing here, and you're using a lot of the same components in each one of those, and you've got one that makes another 30 or 40% more horsepower, you're asking for it. And then you put a car out that, and I've driven these, and they're a lot of fun to drive, but they don't corner well. And it's just so impractical because everybody now, even Ford with their GT, is going towards a 6-cylinder that's more focused on lap times. It's lighter and it's more maneuverable. Okay, what on the other side of the coin here, we've got this insane amount of horsepower and it doesn't turn well. So where are you going to use something like that? At the drag strip, right? You make a car like this, and you basically are asking for people to drag race these cars, and then it falls apart. Now, you know where I'm going with this. The manufacturer is going to say you're racing it. If it's under warranty, we don't have to honor the claim.
Do the words Demon and Hellcat have anything to do with why you may have purchased this thing?
So I'm going to suggest that Chrysler tread very carefully here, because you made a car that was basically asking to be
That's
raced. And if you start refusing to honor repairs on something like this because it was being raced, which technically I think gets them off the hook. They don't have to fix it if it's being used,
if it's
for race
proven
purposes.
that it is, yeah. But if it's
and they've got the video, it's sitting right there on the drag
but you
strip.
can't tell me that some guy that's going through midlife crisis that went out and spent his savings on this thing because he wants to go fast isn't going to jerk it around, right?
So, yeah, I agree. So I think they're going to stop making these because they're going to take a look at this and they're going to go, it's too costly. We're not selling that many of them. It's a limited production run. We don't make that many of them. We're just not even going to go there.
First time I drove one, I rented one myself, and we took a trip to Florida, and I was like, yeah, I want to I want to try this thing. They're
fun.
a lot of fun, but you hit on something key just moments ago about its inability to corner. And, they brought back an old classic car, modernized, but it still, to me, kind of had that feel of that just old, heavy, regular,
when I got in
type
it,
steer.
I felt like it reminded me of my first automobile, which you and I have talked about, I think on our first podcast, which was a tank, man. It was a battleship. And I felt like when I got in that Challenger, that you kind of sitting down, and it was real kind of cavernous. It's a 2-door. It's kind of dark in the back seat, because there's no windows. That's what it reminded me of too.
It really did. I mean, but it was fun to drive though. I mean, it really was. It was cool car, man. Yeah. Nice looking. I thought they did something right in regards to bringing it back.
Sounds great. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like, when Ford brought back the Mustang, you had this run on everybody going retro, right? Bringing all these body styles back, which I thought was cool. VW did it with the Beetle, and we just talked about this in our last podcast about the Vanagon, an EV VW Vanagon coming out, and which I think they've paid great homage to that. It looks great, but this particular one, I thought
the ID Buzz. Talking about the ID Buzz.
So, but this particular one, man, I thought, they hit it out of the park, and then when I got in it, it wasn't as special as I thought it was.
So I think I can solve this problem for them. Okay, so the Parts Counter Gurus right here,
you're hearing
on
it first.
The air and
you're hearing it
live.
First.
We're gonna solve it. I mean it. I've got the solution for this dilemma with Chrysler in particular of separating the ram line, and now you've got your cars falling apart on the drag strip, and you're not sure if you want to make them anymore, and how expensive, and how many you have to. I got the solution.
Okay, I'm waiting.
All right, but I'm going to digress a little bit first. Okay, this is it's called a tease, Jay. After these messages, so I finished watching, and this is all going to tie together in the end, I promise. Okay, so I finished watching season 2 of The Punisher last night. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't yet. No.
Okay, well, it's pretty brutal. I remember way back before my wife and I got married. I think when we were dating, I asked her, "Hey, who's your favorite superhero?" I mean, that's an important question to ask, right? No, it helps you sort of size up a person. And she said, "The Punisher," and I went, like, he kills everybody in his way, like. There is no murder. I mean, that's not. What are you trying to tell me here? I mean, and as long as you know what you're getting into, and he's got a code, and he's not like all the other Marvel superheroes that have this we don't kill code, right? I mean, he definitely wouldn't fit into the cinematic universe. But twice in the season finale episode, somebody on that show is a fan of Alice in Chains.
Ooh.
2 different songs from the Jar of Flies album, so back when Lane was still around, were used on the final episode of the season, of season 2.
I did not know that, and I should
You have to watch to see which two, but and didn't use any the whole rest of the season, and it was a good season. It was good. I mean, there's a lot of carnage, man. You got to know what you're getting into.
Wow. Well, I need to check that out.
Okay, but we've seen, certainly with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they've got, what is it, more than 20 movies to date now. I mean, it's almost, when is this going to end? I mean, it's clearly done so well for them, and it seems like every movie that they come out does even better than the one before it. So here's how you solve your problem, Chrysler. Partner up with a company like Marvel or Disney. Do a limited edition release of a... Look, you're using Demon and Hellcat. How much more of a stretch is it to have the Punisher edition, right? Or, if you want to do a Captain America Jeep or, whatever, right? Go do some licensing and people will go nuts for this stuff and they will buy for the branding and the badging of that. And this isn't new, really. I mean, car companies have done this kind of stuff before, but there is so much success in that comic book side of things right now. It's like you can't... Everything they put their name on sells like hotcakes. Go come up with a...
No doubt about it. They're missing the opportunity if they don't. You're right.
Yeah. Put it in a movie. Yeah. Sell it. Make 1,000 of them a year. Charge a little more because of the licensing.
It's a no-brainer.
And now you don't have to worry about your, transmissions dropping out of the back on the high horsepower in version of your car. You can make that same revenue on something with a little less horsepower.
Yeah, and you're probably going to sell quite a few units, I would think.
Tranny out of.
Yeah. Well, you're saying limited. I think it's a great idea.
You think that'd go
over?
You
heard it here, Chrysler. You heard it here. PartsCounterGuru.com. Keys on it.
And speaking of recalls, the Ranger on the Ford side has already been.
Yeah, that was a big deal. Yeah, you
touched by the recall Death Angel.
Ford F-150 as well. 2011.
Yeah.
Through 2013, 1.5 million units, man. That were.
Is it a good thing that Ford is announcing recalls on a vehicle that has yet to be commercially available? I'm talking about the Ranger, because I don't think you can buy one yet, can you?
No.
So is it good for them to make such a...
If I'm a consumer...
What do you think about that?
And I'm a Ford guy.
Yeah.
I don't think, I think there's more negative impacts by not revealing. I think it shows that they have integrity. And that could tie in and segue into what we talked about before about brand loyalty. Why do you go back to it?
Well,
I mean, this is
and there's got to be some truth to that. I mean, Ford announced also today that their profits were up and they're paying their employees back. They got a bonus.
Ford is the only one of the three big automakers that didn't take a handout from the government whenever all that went down. So let's call it what it is. But I have a lot of respect for Ford and the integrity that they have in that regard. It shows that they have that they're in touch. I think that they're in touch. Put it that way. I don't think it's a negative deal because people know what to expect when they get it. They're not going to lie to you up front. And I would say that this is it could be a good step for them. We'll see what happens with it.
We will. It looks like the Broncos going to use that same platform.
They'll have all the bugs worked out before it really hits big. But hey, this particular recall, the F-150, the transmission. You know how it's going to get fixed, right? Yeah.
Can I guess?
Absolutely. You can guess.
Am I allowed to guess on the program? They're going to... Somebody that is not a Ford employee has already solved this problem.
It's a software update. No.
Oh, see, I was going to go aftermarket.
It's the transmit.
What?
Yeah. Well,
so can you elaborate on that?
Software update. Apparently, the transmissions are gearing down on their own, and
so they're going to update the computer.
And again, this goes. We've talked about OBD for the last several podcasts, and I'm telling you right now, OBD will never go away. And we also talked about the ability to fix these things because of the OBD, okay, and their ability to be able to. Right. You get firmware updates and software updates on just about every electronic out there these days, and this is how beneficial this technology is to the auto industry, any industry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you talked about this earlier. Tesla released an update for some collision avoidance. What do they call that? Blind spot detection.
Yeah.
People with 2 or 3 year old cars are getting those updates. I dare you, internet, to tweet at the CEO of GM or Ford on a suggested change that you would like to see in an existing model year, and see if they give you that change free of charge.
Can we say brand loyalty again?
So, I mean, it sounds like a test. Let's say I am a fan of the innovation and pushing forward as it pertains to better quality for the consumer. That's what I'm a fan of. I don't. The brand itself doesn't really mean anything.
It's its ability to move forward with the trends. I got a friend that just bought a brand new Model 3, and he's got this nice package on there, but mine's 3 years old. God, do I trade it in? No, Elon, you just giving it away. You just send an update out, man. That's awesome. I mean, that's how you retain your customer base.
Yeah. Well, and your luxury lines typically are more careful about changing the superficial changes, the body style changes. They don't do them as often because that every time you do that, it devalues the existing line. So if you'll notice that, like BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, they're pretty careful about Ford changes the look of the Mustang every 4 or 5 years at least. You won't see that in a luxury line. They'll go a decade sometimes without a change in appearance. They might make changes to the to the engine or to the transmission or something that you don't see, but it's still going to look like that ES or Model 3.
That's awesome though, man. I mean, gosh, I mean, what Tesla is doing is just incredible, man. I mean, and I know you're a big fan of them, and
well, they ought to be, and I've yet to drive one.
Well, your day will come. It'll come. I think who knows what may come. It could be. You never know.
Could be tomorrow. Yeah. So hey, I've got some props to get ready. Will you? So that I don't step all over it. You want to give out our social media platform addresses?
Sure. Hey everybody, you know how to get us on the web. It's www.partscounterguru.com, or you can check us out on Instagram, the Parts Counter Guru @the Parts Counter Gurus. You can check us out on Facebook. It's Facebook Parts Counter Gurus, and you can check us out. Yeah, you like that?
Nice.
You can check us out on YouTube. We have a nice YouTube channel over there, the Parts Counter Gurus. You can easily find everything, people, by just going to our website. And if you go to the top left-hand side of the page, you'll see an area where you can pull down the little drop box, get you all the podcast links and a number of other things. You can contact us and ask us a question. You can become a fan. You can be a sponsor. You can do anything like that. So just go to our website. I think it's where you really, really want to go, and that's www.partscounterguru.com. And today we're brought to you by Union Tavern.
So we're, depending on when you're listening to this, and I know you've been going through a little bit of this, starting to get into the rainy season.
Wet.
There you go. And something that you've been itching to talk about, I'm now on board with that itch. Mm-hmm. We share the same itch. As we get a little bit more precipitation, as those con men known as weather people like to call it,
who holds stock in major
I brought a couple
grocery store chains.
Groceries. Yeah. I brought a prop.
Yeah, that's
you know what that is?
That's old school right there. I think my grandmother may have used one when she was
This actually might have been my grandmother's. So what might this have to do with rainy season and automobiles and all of that? What do people wait to do until it's raining?
You know how I feel about
on their
this,
cars,
Keith.
Jay.
People, take my word for it. Don't do that to the poor counter person at your local parts store who install free of charge your new wiper blades. There is no disclaimer out there that says that they will do it in a downpour. But unfortunately, you walk into the auto parts store expecting for that to happen. And politely, these dedicated servants of the automotive industry come in and take it by the horns and install your wiper blades during the middle of a storm. Anyway, I have a problem with that. That was the biggest traffic on rainy days. You could bet you were going to wipe out the inventory because no one pays attention to it until it rains and it's not wiping good.
Now one of the brands we're going to talk about, which I've actually bought, and I think you have too. We're going to talk about it in a minute because we're going to recommend some wiper brands.
We'll give you some links out there. We'll make some recommendations, put some links out there. You can go buy them online.
Yeah. Well, there's a link on our website. It's called, or I should say a page on our website.
Mentioned on the podcast. That's right.
Mentioned on the podcast. And we typically update by episode, what we talk about. So we'll have this one updated as well. One of these particular brands specifically says not to put it on. Well, they prefer you to not install them when it's wet. Mm-hmm. And the reason is it's got a coating on it that goes on your windshield and it doesn't work and it doesn't do its job if you put it on. They tell you it'll still work, but it won't be as effective. So knowing that it's a pet peeve of yours that people wait till it rains to change their wipers, not wanting to get on your bad side, and also wanting to be prepared for the podcast, I went and pulled. Now, one of my vehicles has still got the factory blades on it. One of them I replaced last spring. And my Toyota, I started looking at. That's still got the factory blade, so it's about 5 years old. And they're still working, but it's getting to be about time, I think. And I went online and I tried to do some lookup, and I got. So if you do it with a manufacturer, they don't give you the wiper blade size. So if you're willing to just buy the manufacturer or OEM, as we like to say, wiper blades, that's fine. And as far as you would ever have to go is just to call your local dealership and tell them you need new wiper blades, and they'll take care of you, right? But if you want to go with some of these aftermarket brands, which some of them are pretty good,
and
you got to know the size of your blades
in the aftermarket.
Now, yeah, absolutely. So my FJ takes 3 wiper blades in the front. It's a real short windshield, but it's really long. So there's 3 short blades. Well, some of the websites that I went to said it's a 14-inch blade. Some of them said 13. I think the driver is a little bit bigger than the center and the passenger side.
Yes.
Yep. But there's 2, but I want to know for sure. Like, do I need a 13-inch blade on the passenger side or a 14? Which is it? Because some of these sites are showing me. So there's 2 places you can go to find out for sure. Because I want to keep it as close to the original as I can. I don't want an extra inch of blade hitting up on the paint or whatever. Go to your owner's manual, of course. Duh, right? Some of them will have an
OEM part number typically.
They'll have an OEM part number, but that's not going to tell you the size of the blade.
If you do that, you can hold on to that OEM part number, go in, and take a look at it and measure it. There's ways to get around these things.
Right. Or
Or measure it on the vehicle. Yeah.
You can take one of these.
That's right.
And go measure it on the vehicle. And then you'll know. So let's do this live.
All right. So we're going to know.
On the air.
All right.
See if I can pull this off. So this is off the driver's side. Now, I expect that it's not going to be exact, meaning to the exact inch. It might. But what you want to do is you want to round to the closest inch, up or down. And see if I can get this on camera. I'm just going to take my tape measure and run it right on the rubber part of the blade that touches the windshield. So not the backside or, the part that actually sits up against the glass. And I'm showing about 15 3/4 inches. And I did look up that they're calling for a 16 for that driver's side. So that's pretty close to
that's it.
To what I need. So it's a 16, right? Now, if you go aftermarket, there's two basic styles of blades that you can get. This is a frame style blade. They're typically a little bit smaller in profile, meaning they're kind of thinner, and it's got all this extra metal.
Those are pressure
kind
points.
Of these.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And that allows the blade to adjust in various areas, depending on what's on your windshield or what kind of windshield you've got. And it'll let it curve.
It's a beam.
Okay?
Yeah,
so
it's a beam.
That's a framed wiper blade.
Yep.
Yep. Nothing wrong with those. That's more of a factory look. Now, on some vehicles, you want a little bit more profile look. You stick with something like this. What's become more common is a frameless design.
Very lightweight.
Like this. Okay. Yep. A little bit lighter. Now this is a Rain-X. I've got this. Came
And you
off
have
my
the
truck.
bayonet style.
But
connector, right?
Yeah, it's and they come.
Fit
all these
anything.
now
Yep.
come with. They're guaranteed to work, and you can call the company and they'll help you fit it. And they come with 2 or 3 different adapters, and it's kind of one of these things. Once you figure out the first one, you got it for the rest of the life of the car. This one's got a kind of an air deflector.
Yeah, it's basically what it's designed to do is keep pressure on that windshield at all times, even during the heaviest of rainstorms and windstorms. That's what it's designed to do. Yep. So it's aerodynamic.
Now this is a Rain-X. Now this particular one is coated, and it will actually transfer that coating to your windshield to help wick the water away. And they tell you to put it on and run it dry on the windshield for a few minutes when you install it. And that's back to why I was saying, don't wait till it rains.
I noticed one thing they promote on that particular. It says the Rain-X water repelling coating will also help clear your windshield of harsh winter weather driving elements such as ice, snow, and sleet. And it can help reduce wear and tear on the squeegee and lead to longer blade life. And speaking of blade life, when they design these things, they design them. There's more or less a life expectancy or a standard that they go by. They expect that most wiper blades should last you about 1.5 million wipes. In other words, cycles. And so they put a lot of attention to detail there in that regard. And how they achieve that is that's why what you were just showing then. The life of those particular type wipers are so much, in my opinion, longer. I've gotten a lot of usage out of mine, and it's rubber sticker. They've got the
rubber sticker.
You've got the good squeegee, and their pressure points are perfect. And I spoke of this in my podcast about the winter driving tips, where before you get out on the road, make sure that you check your wiper blades. And one thing, you can do it by touch. You can check to make sure that it's not hard, because it needs to be pliable there, and then also making sure that its ability to make good contour contact to that windscreen or windshield. Windscreen, sorry, that's a British term.
No, it's good. If you live in an area, kind of where you get a lot of winter weather, like in the north. Or you're in an area where you leave your car parked outside a lot without cover, you might want to consider a winter blade. Now so blades come in like a hybrid, which is supposed to be good for all seasons, and then there's a winter version. And nothing wrong with swapping blades out for the winter. And those winter blades are designed to deal with the elements Jay was just talking about a little bit more. You know, they're going to stay a little bit pliable, more pliable at a cooler temperature. They're going to deal with sleet and stuff like that a little better. So just food for thought. Know that the wiper blades do have seasons, and make sure that you get the appropriate one for whatever season you're trying to.
Good advice. Something else that I'd like to kind of share that you probably won't find, anybody mentioning, not at the wiper blade store. But what do you do with your old ones? What do you do with yours?
I light them on fire and throw them out on the street for the kids to play with.
Okay.
During Independence Day.
Right. So here's going to be my suggestion. Okay. For all of you people not driving vehicles that are equipped from the factory with run flat tires, and you actually have a spare tire, there's a reason you have a spare tire, because you may have a flat and you've got something to pull from and put it on, and you can go along your way to go get that repaired. I want to make a suggestion to you people. When you have your old wipers removed and install new ones, if you still have some life left on those wipers, it could save your rear end if you hold on to those things and stow them in the back end. And if something happens on the road and you for whatever reason, a piece of the contact point where it makes contact and clips into the bayonet cracks or breaks off, and now you got a wiper that works again if you have your spare in the rear end. So keep them. Don't throw them away. Only if they're usable. But, inspect them. So,
right. I mean, if they're shot and they're gapping out and they're not, then you light them on fire and throw them in the street and let the kids play with them.
Absolutely. And they actually burn really quickly. They stink, though, man. So
maybe put them in your neighbor's yard. So let's talk about brands a little bit. So we've already mentioned Rain-X. I'm probably going to go with an OEM style, frame style for my FJ, just because I like that look on that vehicle. So Denso, who, if you don't know the name Denso's kind of like the biggest company you've never heard of in the automotive industry. Right. They make a lot of parts for Japanese
Asian
vehicles. Just all Asian vehicles
in general. Yeah, they're going to have their name on something on that vehicle.
And I've actually dealt with their corporate people in the past, and that's by design. They don't really want you to know who they are. They don't care so much about consumer recognition, and they sort of feel like if we do a good job and our products are good, we'll get the business. Right. And they really, really test their from a durability, longevity, product failure. They really, really put their stuff through strenuous tests. So I like Denso. Denso makes spark plugs. They make a lot of stuff. They make wipers. They make some pretty good wipers. I will probably go down that line. Rain-X is another one. I like Rain-X. What do you think about Rain-X?
I love Rain-X. I've used them for years. It's a good quality product. They stand behind it. I've actually had an issue out of a pair once, and I only had them for a couple months, and I took them back to the local retailer, and they swapped them out for me, no problem, guaranteed. Fixed the problem.
Yeah.
Bought.
Now they're the ones that also make the coating.
Correct. Yeah.
We were just talking about.
Well, hopefully everybody knows what Rain-X is, but this has the coating on it that actually, you think it's kind of taken away from what they're trying to do, which is give you a good wiper blade, but they're also promoting their other product lines, which is the water repellent.
Sure. I was a little bit skeptical when I bought mine, but after having them on there for 3 seasons now, they're good.
They are.
I like them.
Yeah, they're good. But don't hesitate to take a look at. Let's face it, Keith. Some of these things. I mean, one single wiper blade could run you as much as $30 in some instances. So, but you may have a competitive in-house aftermarket brand. Just do your homework. Look at reviews on it and see what people say. And remember, if you're not satisfied with a product after a week or two or whatever, you can always take it back. I'm sure that most of these retailers will work with you and help you out. But I grew up with Anco and Trico.
Yep, they're still around.
Yep.
Yep.
And back in the day when I started changing out wiper blades for free on a rainy day, they didn't have what we now have with these bayonet styles. They actually had where we changed, it was the metal frame, and you had the metal refills that just slid into the grooves, and you clipped them in and they stayed in place. Those things are actually not really good for windshields, man, when they come apart, know, so
it turns out
they kind of like they'll put a nice little scratch in your windshield if you're not careful, but yeah. Those are the vehicles. You know how to tell one of those vehicles coming down the highway? They'll have a you don't know. Yeah,
No.
they'll have a big tube sock stuffed around the end of it until they can get to the store to get the.
Oh, right.
Have you seen those?
Yeah. Okay.
People. Yeah.
Now I have. Yeah. I mean, I have now that you mention it.
Tube socks work great. Do you know what tube socks are?
Yeah, of course I do.
Some of our listeners may not, but tube stocks have a don't throw them away when they get holes in them, man. They really work great for wiper blades too.
Put your old wiper blades in them and stick them in the truck.
That's exactly. You heard it here, folks. Right here, partscounterguru.com.
We're solving all the auto industry problems today. So let's put some links for these wiper blades on our website, on the mentioned on the podcast page. We'll recommend some good brands.
Yeah,
for
there's
you.
some really good ones out there too. So I was looking at the list that we were going over, and there's some good quality. And what's funny to me though is I don't see any of the in-store brands listed here. So
yeah, and sometimes they will just white label like the house
private
brand
label,
is actually made by somebody else. They've just bought in bulk like tons of
they
them.
just don't have the pretty graphics and everything on the outside of the packaging. It's just black and white writing, and here's our wiper blade. It's equivalent to this.
I think the best thing advice wise we can probably say is just do your homework before you walk into the store. If you're standing there trying to pick out wiper blades and you've got 3 or 4 in your hand and you're basing your decision on how good the advertising is on the packaging, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Right. And one thing I want to recommend to you is that if you have any apprehension about changing them yourselves, however, it's really easy to do. And we may find a real quick video. You know what? Here's what I'm going to do, Keith. I want to do a real quick video on how easy it is to change these things in an upcoming little little help video.
I'm all about it.
We'll do that.
I look forward to your video.
That'll be fun. But what?
Now, you had mentioned a website to me before we started rolling. Had to do with wiper blades. You were pretty excited about it.
Well, no, actually, it's that one. It's the I forwarded that to you, by the way. It's our list.
Okay.
But we'll put that out there. It's called 10 Beasts or something like that was the name of it. But we'll put it out.
Okay.
We'll put links out there. Yeah,
we'll put a link on the website.
Guys,
okay.
Man. But yeah. So what I wanted to say though before we go any further is that if you have any apprehension about doing it, the folks at these parts stores will do these things for you, and you do have to be careful, folks, because you can actually crack your windshield if you don't know what you're doing, and I've seen it happen. These arms, you've seen them. They come up when you pull them up. They're spring loaded, and you
can break that. Those are gear driven.
Yeah, and you pull this back, and you pull off the wiper arm. If you let that thing slap back down on your windshield without a blade, you're gonna have a nice little crack right there. So just be very mindful of that.
Trombone's getting a workout today.
Yeah, not only will you be replacing your wipers, but your windshield as well. So.
So speaking of cracks and windshields, I and other products that Rain-X makes, I had a rock chip on my windshield, and I got one of these. It was a Rain-X. You can get them online. You can get them on Amazon. I think you can get them you can get them at the auto stores, but you can also get them in places like Walmart. It's just a chip repair kit. It comes in a little vial. Have you ever used one of these?
I haven't used one. I've seen people use them. I've sold it. I've sold the product.
Yeah.
I've just been very fortunate. I've not had to deal with that issue.
Well, I do a lot of highway driving, do a lot of traveling, and so I guess it was just a matter of time.
What are the odds of that? Of driving all these years?
Sorry?
What are the odds of that? Of me driving all these years and never really having like a...
Well, now that you've said it...
Oh, my run is
Pandora's
over.
Box.
Holy cow.
So I did I did a repair, used some of this product, and a couple things I'll say about it. So mine was just a small chip, and it was in an area that I actually couldn't even see from inside the driver's seat. It was behind the rearview mirror. But I wanted to stop it from getting worse. I wanted to stop that crack from spreading. And this stuff did a good job of that. Now, it actually uses UV light to cure. So you don't want to put it on in direct sunlight. You want to try to put it on in garage or in the shade. And on the packaging, they show you a lot of pictures of the product kind of making the crack disappear. It's not going to do that. It's not. The crack is there. You're filling in the crack. You're actually squirting this goo into the crack. You're not going to make the crack disappear visibly, but what you will do is you will stop that crack from getting worse. And if you're trying to not have to replace your windshield, it did the job for me.
It is a DIYer's good product for that if you don't want to spend a lot of money on a repair person coming out and fixing that crack. But these days and times too, though, you can, most insurance companies will cover that. But it's not 100% guarantee that it's going to stop the crawl the crack. What's the term I'm looking for, Keith? It propagates. It propagates across the windshield or where it started. So the object of this product is to actually become sort of like a buffer between it and the rest of the windshield to prevent it from spreading. So that's what it does. And it's a good product. I mean, I know it is because I sold a ton of it. So
I got a tip for you. If you don't want to do it yourself, get on Google or your favorite local lookup search engine and find a local RV dealer. Even if you don't own an RV.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you where I'm going with this. So any of these RV dealers that sell or repair motorhomes with windshields, motorhomes are very prone to these rock chips because most of them are sitting perpendicular to the roadway, and they catch everything that comes their way. So these dealers will have a guy, he's usually a glass guy, that comes out once a month or once every couple months, and he'll fix a lot of rock chips for them. Just call the local RV dealer, say, who do you use? Can I get his name and number? And they'll probably give it to you. And I'm telling you, they've all got one. And I've gone by these places and I've seen the guy out there, and he's out there for half a day fixing them. So if you're looking for a guy that can come fix it for you without replacing the windshield, and they do some of that injection work themselves where they put the suction cups on and pump fluid into it, that's not a bad option.
That's a great
call
tip,
that guy
Keith.
up.
It really is.
Thanks, man. Usually it's a mobile rig. They'll come to you or they'll meet you in a parking lot or something somewhere.
Yeah, those RV windshields are so expensive, man. Don't you know? Right?
No, we're not going to talk about that. No, we're not.
That's a great tip. Not only on RVs, but you can get in contact with them and they'll repair an automotive windshield.
Windshield's a windshield. It's the same.
They're making money
glass.
either way, but they have, those guys tend to have some good equipment on hand to get the job done right for them. So, and that's the key.
They've got a guy. Same thing with hail damage. Those dealerships use a hail damage guy. Find out who it is.
That's it. So,
man, I feel like we have solved the auto industry's problems.
Well, they're going to be seeing clearly.
I mean,
they're going to be seeing clearly, I think. Yeah. I mean, it's we definitely have. We've actually covered some good topics today. So,
yeah. I mean, we kind of. That's a lot of work for a week, right?
All over the place, but I hope we've been some help. I think we have. I learned something today, didn't you? Absolutely.
Yeah, several somethings.
Absolutely. So, well, you going to take us out this time?
I'll take us out. Let me ask for a favor first. If you like the podcast, the best thing you can do is tell a friend. tell a friend and hit the subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast if you're listening through an audio only. Tell a friend, have them subscribe. If you hate the podcast, tell an enemy.
That's right. And if you don't have time to sit down in front of a monitor or your phone to watch it, you can always just run the audio in your car.
You can always listen to it. Yep. We are trying to reach, I think it's 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, so we would appreciate your subscription. Do us that favor if you don't mind. Find us online if you need a link to all of our social media outlets. Jay, what's our website?
www.partscounterguru.com.
See, I don't know why I'm even here, man. You got this covered. So, anything else to add before I
just
say
reminder
goodbye?
that we're going to put up links on, talked about on the podcast link for any of these wiper blades, and I think Keith, you were going to probably put up the windshield repair kit, also the crack repair.
Yep, we'll get all that on the mentioned on the podcast.
So you just click right on our page, and you can purchase it right through there, and it's just a link over to Amazon, and they'll get you fixed right up. But otherwise, no, I don't really have anything.
Yep.
I'm good. I'm happy. I learned.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you all learned something as well. Until next time, that is Jay over there.
It's Keith.
I'm Keith.
It's right there.
It's right here. If you're a girl in Winslow, Arizona, who happens to drive a flatbed Ford, drop us a note on the website. We'd love to hear from you.
Right on.
Take care, everybody.
Okay, I am recording.
I am Keith. Hello, recording.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.